Pleasant good day to you all. The Honorable Attorney General, we as prison officers, we are very happy that such a consultation can be organized and delivered. We take note of the comprehensive, well-detailed, analytical position that you have outlined to all of us. And we must say all of the issues, well, most of the issues were well covered. So I must say at this point in time, you took some wind out of my sails because I really wanted to come and perform this afternoon. But the reality is, most of the issues were covered by the Attorney General. Some were covered by the Commissioner of Prisons, as do our learned friends, Mr. Daniel Khan and Mr. Israel Khan. The reality of the situation is, I did not come here as a member of the Prison Officers Association to speak to the politicians. The politicians have spoken and engaged with the Prison Officers Association ad nauseum for years. I came here to really engage you, members of the public, whose interests the prison service seek to serve. It is your monies that has the prison service operating, your taxpayers' dollars. It is your interest, by and large, in the maintenance of your public safety, the prison service seek to treat with. But incidentally, your input is the least recognized, and your input into shaping the direction forward and your interest is the least pronounced. We all know, as the national budget, the fiscal policy will set the tone for expenditure in Trinidad and Tobago in any economy. And we also know, operating parallel to that formal economy is the underground economy. And one central bank governor in the past said that your fiscal economy, if it is amounting to approximately $50 billion, I'm just trying to paraphrase what he said, then the underground economy is pumping just a significant amount of expenditure into the economy. So in other words, what he's saying, crime have money. That is what he said. Crime have money. So I will not elaborate and go and regurgitate or repeat all that was said. I will add a bit, but I will say this. If crime has money, that we all know, systems that are not well managed, such as the prison system, are also facilitating certain interest groups in making money as well. So don't believe for one moment, don't ever believe that you come in here as an ordinary citizen telling yourself, okay, we have all of the answers, so we just have to chart the course. But remember, the interests of all are always not the same. Your interest is to have crime properly managed so that you can live well, meaningful, and productive lives free of the effects of crime. There are other segments of society who have different interests, you know. Some segments' interest is to capitalize from the fallout of systems. So when you have a clogged remand facility or remand facilities, which incidentally, over 90% of our problems within the prison environment emanates from those facilities, not the convicted. Cases are not being managed properly. Inmates are spending inordinate length of period waiting for justice. We interviewed inmates at the remand facility, Golden Grove. They are talking about 5 to 10. I'm telling you, I interview inmates who are in the system 16 years awaiting justice. 16 years, and when you speak to them, you hear the venom coming from them as it regards to their experiences. And we well imagine these superhumans that line up at YTC, come into the system looking for a job with their baby faces, their mother's milk still in their face. And they have to now go and deal with those levels of disenchantment. These magicians, they call prison officers, who the public like to blame for everything within the system. These magicians have to deal with that. And I want to know which prison officer, with the level of disenchantment existing in these institutions, which prison officer could alleviate that? Which prison officer? What you go tell a person who in jail for 16 years? What can you do as a prison officer to satisfy him? What he could do? You're very limited. And the reality of the situation is, what is causing this condition to be perpetuated over the years? Because we have all the answers. We have the Rickson's Commission in the 50s. We have the Professor Ramesh Deosuran report. We have the Justice Carl Gobin report. We have the Inspector Daniel Khan's report. We have a series of reports providing all of the answers. We have the Ramesh Deosuran Special Prisons Committee report of 2013. So how are we, with all of those answers over the years, still at the point when we cannot deliver or we cannot implement? How is that possible? I was not enthused by coming here today, but what made me come here today, and I told my General Secretary, we need to have an audience with the public, because the public is the missing link. The public is the missing link, because if you have recommendations, and I'm certain, based on the delivery coming from the Attorney General, it appears that almost everything is covered. Everything is covered, very comprehensive. I need not repeat as I go forward. But what will actually give the government the inspiration and the motivation to carry it out? Or sustain, because we can start something hot and sweaty in Trinidad. In Trinidad, we are starting things hot and sweaty. Consultation, yes, nice. Answers, we're going to start to implement. 6 months down the road, other issues come up. We shelve that. 9 days wonder. And that is why the public is the missing link, and you all are integral. You all have to shape the political will. You have to shape it. It is not enough for myself, the Commissioner of Prisons, Mr. Gerard Gordon, Mr. Wayne Chance. It is not enough for us to be the advocators. You have to be the main advocators. You have to make sure that what was delivered here, what decisions we made, you have to make sure that the final leg of the race is completed. That is going straight down to complete implementation. You are the ones to do it. This will be a colossal waste of time. If the public sit and believe that things will be hunky-dory, all the answers provided, and all the implementations done on your behalf, because we operate for you without your input. So coming out of this, what the Prison Officers Association would like to say is that we hope that there are more follow-up forums where the government show a working document how they are going to execute the type of time frames, the sort of priority given to the various issues, and report back to you at intervals the status of these issues and the status of implementation. If that doesn't happen, trust me, if that doesn't happen, then we are going to continue perpetuating talks with no action. And if the past is an indication of what to expect in the future, if we do the same thing over and over and we are expecting different results, we are all insane. We are all insane. We have heard, and no disrespect to the Attorney General, we have heard a number of speeches by various governments over the years as it regards to prison reform, what needs to be done, what is not needed. We heard a comprehensive quantifying in dollars and cents of what it takes over an extended period to run a prison service and how the monies are allocated over those years and what it means specifically to one inmate. Detailed dollars and cents. And then we heard whether or not it is making sense to continue as is, as opposed to doing alternatives to reduce the cost, maximize the effectiveness, and get the desired results. We heard that. Well detailed, and we are happy about it. But I'm saying all will go to naught if it is not properly policed by you, members of the public. The interests of management and the interests of worker representatives or workers are sometimes almost always different. Sometimes we say we are going to the same destination, but just using different means by which we reach there. That is a reality. But in terms of managing the interests, in terms of getting things done, you have to be the ultimate leg runner in this race, the public. Because the Prison Officers Association cannot do it by itself. The Commissioner of Prisons, who always try to champion the cause of officers and inmates in the prison and by and large society, cannot do it by himself. Mr. Wayne Chance and the other NGOs who speaks ad nauseum, telling you daily, almost daily, what are the problems. They cannot do it alone. What is missing is the public. I'm saying this, and I'm repeating it over and over to get it in your minds, that this will fall flat without your policing. Without your policing, this will fall flat. Right? It has fallen flat over the years. And I'm not questioning the intent of the government here. I'm not saying the government doesn't have good intention. For all intents and purposes, we have to be optimistic. We always have to be. But we have to always know what are the underlying interests in different quarters. And the interest, if you allow your interests to be circumvented by other interests, you will not get the desired results. It will not redound to the benefits of the citizens. So you have to make sure that your interests as citizens, your interests, be the dominant force in allowing things to happen. I just want to take the opportunity to mention some things that I think was left out. When I look at the prison system, we know the real problem are the remand prisons. When you look at the various stations that remanded inmates are held, you know you have the remand prison Golden Grove, you have the Port of Spain prisons. When you look at these prisons from inception, how these prisons came into being, let me look at Port of Spain, for example. Port of Spain prison was built in colonial times. Port of Spain prison is over 200 years old. It was built purposely, but it was designed for retribution. Port of Spain prison was built in a time when you punish people, prisoners are means of punishment. People are incarcerated and they are punished. So the very design of Port of Spain prison is not facilitative of rehabilitation. It is not facilitative of providing the type of environment that will inspire the type of satisfaction for people to go on to change their lives. When you look at the remand prison Golden Grove, which is our main remand facility, that facility was a warehouse. They used to keep ballot boxes there. It was not a purpose-built prison. When you look at ECRC came about from the SOE. You all remember that? They just get a warehouse. The minister, by law, the minister can deem any part, any building, any place a prison. You all know that? By law. Abracadabra, we have a new prison, ECRC. In less than a month, abracadabra, magician, we have a new prison. It was not purpose-built. It was not built and designed to facilitate a particular objective. And the reality, we have a prison that is holding inmates. So when you look at some of the shortcomings, and I want to make a key recommendation, Honorable Attorney General, there is need for a new purpose-built remand facility in Trinidad and Tobago. That is one of the recommendations I did not hear. There is a need for a new purpose-built remand facility in Trinidad and Tobago. ASAP. Because no matter what you do, in terms of how you discharge your duties owing to overcrowding, for which we heard ton loads of rationale for it. The main being the poor administration of justice in Trinidad and Tobago that is very effective at keeping prison people for very long periods in the service. Right? The reality is, if we don't have a purpose-built remand facility, the fallout of that will be, one, prison officers who operate in those systems that are found wanting will not be able to discharge their duties in a manner that is necessary to promote the satisfaction of that environment. It means to say that the very environment, the very nature of the environment is restrictive. It is so much a prison officer can do. Do you know that prison officers cannot even work in order to facilitate the job? They cannot work consistent with the rules and regulations of the prison. Do you know that? Do you know that almost every single rule in the prison service must, and I'm using the word must, be broken for you to sleep peaceful at night, you citizens? Every single rule has to be broken. Ask the commissioner. Mr. Daniel Khan could attest to that. Must be broken in order for citizens to sleep good at night. And if you look to follow the rules, as was done in 2013, when one of our colleagues died, was murdered with impunity, when the rules were followed, you all imagine the fallouts. They started burning powder spray in prison. You all remember that? The work was halted. Courts not going, inmates not going to court. Visit was restricted. All the services provided were affected. Why? Because prison officers decide we are going to work towards the rules and regulation of the prison. So even that we cannot follow. We can't follow it. Because the environment, coupled with the greatest atrocity on the prison service, which is the overcrowding and its source in the poor administration of justice in Trinidad and Tobago, that itself and the infrastructural development or infrastructural assets that we have places us in a position where we cannot manage. And I can understand the sentiments of Mr. Daniel Khan that the remand is not prison business. We could understand the sentiments of that. But again, I want to tell you, people of Trinidad and Tobago, that you are the missing link. You are the missing link. We have heard all of what I'm saying already. We have been hearing all that Mr. Sterling Stewart have been saying already. As do Mr. Daniel Khan, as do Mr. Israel Khan, as do our Honorable Attorney General. So we have to decide whether we want the system fixed or not. We have to decide that, not the Prison Officers Association. The inmates and the officers within the prison service cannot take out money from their pockets and fix the prison service. The prison service have to come with some level of priority from government, from all the various stakeholders, most of all you, the citizens, in order for it to be fixed. And that is the reality. A few more recommendations I would like to make, Mr. Attorney General. Safety and security for officers on and off duty is our single and most important issue or challenge facing the Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service. I just want to say something quickly on that. In the past 2 decades, over 18 prison officers were murdered with impunity. And let me explain what that means to you. People wake up with an intent and purpose to go and hunt down prison officers and kill them. It is not to say that the prison officer found himself in a situation where a robbery was going on. He tried to intervene and meet his demise. As you will often hear from members of the police service who will respond to issues and they may meet their demise on the basis of trying to discharge their duties or being at a place where something happens and they try to intervene and something, and they meet their detriment. It is different for a prison officer. Our prison officers are being hunted and murdered. Reality. Prison officers, as a result of that being their main issue, are largely affected. They are demotivated. They are frustrated. They are not satisfied with the way things are happening. They believe if we live in our houses every day, diligently to advance the interests of the state, where's the state's interest when we have such issues to deal with? Where's the state's interest? The last 3 prison officers who were murdered, we asked the state as a matter of emergency to provide a number of things. Just 3 items we asked for. We asked for prison officers who will reside in high-risk areas to be assisted by the HGC to have them removed. Do you know, from last year, July, when Andel Primus was murdered, to the last murder, Mr. Fitzalbert Victor, not a single prison officer was attended to by the HGC. Not one. But while that is going on, the politicians on TV who house Bundong and they need reallocation, who have an issue in their community and they need allocation, and they are up and down brandishing in the public domain what they are doing for them. But not a single prison officer. And this and I'm saying this with passion because this is hurting. Not a single prison officer. We asked the government as well to have a policy, to come up with a policy. Let us come together, work together, come up with a policy to treat with the future housing needs of prison officers, the present and future housing needs of prison officers. Bearing in mind, safety and security is a key element in arriving at such a policy. Nothing happened. We asked for a legislative agenda to support the protection of prison officers and by extension law enforcement officials. Things that happen naturally in other countries. In the United States, for example, a prison officer left a prison. His name is Lieutenant Osvaldo Alberati. He left a prison, and on his way home, he was brutally gunned down. He was murdered. His death was deemed to be as a result of his role played in mashing up an illegal cell phone ring. Immediately upon that death, Congress convened within weeks. Within 2 weeks, Congress responded and a law was passed, the Lieutenant Osvaldo Alberati Correctional Officers Self-Protection Act of 2015. In 2004, preceding that, the establishment of a Law Enforcement Safety Act was passed in the United States, responding to officers, correctional officers, police officers, and other law enforcement officials being killed, whether on duty or as a result of discharging their legal duties. So we are seeing at the highest levels in countries that these issues are treated with. Do you know, in Trinidad and Tobago, and I crave your indulgence, and I will hope that the Honorable Attorney General do his research, do you know Trinidad and Tobago has the highest incident of correctional officer killings per capita in the entire Commonwealth? And do you know the flip side of that, on the other extreme, we have had the worst response of any government anywhere in the Commonwealth for dealing with it. The worst response, 2 extremes. The highest incidence of killings, murders, and the worst response by any government in treating with it. What do we meet here? And I don't want to knock any government. I didn't come here to knock any government. But I came here to speak my mind also on what officers are thinking, what we are experiencing. We do not want to hear, and I have to use my word guardedly here, we do not want to hear any government talking about redoubling efforts. Because what redoubling efforts mean? What is the experience? Because since Victor died, Mr. Victor died, over 30 days has passed. Not a single officer, all of those officers in the same position are waiting some sort of response, and we are here still waiting. So when we talk about redoubling efforts, we have to question what the efforts are in the first place. Because I made this statement, and I know I got in trouble for making that statement. I made this statement that if the efforts in the past is 0, and you must multiply 0 by 2, and you are a good mathematician, I'm not so well versed in maths, but I know if you multiply 0 by 2, the answer is. So we hope in going forward that this does not end up a talk shop. Another recommendation that we would like to make, which is a key recommendation, Honorable Attorney General, is that we have a bill brought before Parliament treating with the safety of prison officers in Trinidad and Tobago. And by extension, it can treat with the treatment of law enforcement officials, the safety of law enforcement officials. And we can say it's a law enforcement safety act, whatever year we pass it. But the reality is there must be legislative support as it regards to the treatment and deterrent from persons wanting to kill law enforcement officials in Trinidad and Tobago. There must be some framework work under which we can now devise policies and procedure to treat with it. And let us enforce them. But we cannot operate going forward with a major challenge as what I've just described, unattended, continuing to be unattended by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. We cannot continue. The prison environment is almost approaching critical mass. Things are very chaotic, and they must be treated with. Now, just like Mr. Stewart, as I said, the Attorney General took a lot of winds off my sail because he was very comprehensive, well-detailed, well-analytical, right? And he expressed the issues. I just want to add those two issues, those two recommendations. And as times go by, and I hope this is not the first and last, I heard you signal that there will be other forums. I hope there are follow-up forums or follow-up sessions where we can actually police the implementation of what we are trying to come up with. So, ladies and gentlemen, in an effort to not being long-winded, I just want to say on behalf of the Prison Officers Association at this point, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I introduce the next speaker, I'd just like to say that was extremely powerful advocacy. The reason why this is the first time that an Attorney General has hosted a forum like this is because it's the first time I'm the Attorney General. And I just want to say that it wasn't by mistake that this happened. Trinidad and Tobago has been asking for answers. They want to know what you're doing. They think you live a lovely life, cloistered, and that everything is cushy where you are, that you live in a bubble. Politicians can sometimes live in a bubble, but it is important to remind you that one of my opening remarks was that Parliament and Joint Select Committees with their strictures don't allow for this kind of conversation. And whilst the advocacy was just put out, I would like the population and the fourth estate present here this afternoon to assist me and assist Trinidad and Tobago. My purpose, I'll declare quite openly, is quite simple. I want to pass certain laws which I have prepared, but I don't sit in the Parliament by myself. And in case you didn't notice, there is no special majority in the Parliament. And we have to yet see whether the government will be assisted by the opposition retreating from its position where it says it will not support special majority legislation. And we could hem and haw, build more prisons as we like. If we don't attend to the criminal justice system, we're just going to be filling more and more jails. And the time frame may not necessarily be fixed. We've taken very careful note. The Office of the Attorney General will commit to working in a group team with the Prisons Officers Association and the Commissioner of Prisons, with the CPC's department, not only to do the policy, but also the legislative tweaks required to consider the laws that we've just dealt with by way of analysis. And I wish to thank Mr. Richards profusely for that. Relative to housing, I can tell you that that is a 100% urgency for Trinidad and Tobago. There are 300,000 people for 1,300 homes. There are 300,000 applicants for 3,000 homes. Let me explain that difference. The last government built, and this is without the specifics of the numbers, approximately 3,000 homes, which included some of them being repaired. So they inherited some, they repaired some, but they built only a certain number. The current list at HDC is close to about, as far as I'm aware, approximately 300,000 applicants. There are 250,000 people living on squatting conditions, on squatting lands. In a population of 1.3 million people, we therefore have 550,000 people in need of housing and lands. And the one person who doesn't have the luxury of a simple choice at this table here today is the Attorney General. Because if we're going to spend on the prisons, we have to talk about where the money is coming from. If we're going to spend on housing, we have to talk about where money is coming from. But we have committed as a government to housing. And we have committed to balancing. So we are attempting a public forum engagement, specifically because if you're brave enough to come into the public without privilege, then you're going to be measured by what you do. And you have to be policed in terms of your enforcement. But I'd just like to remind that it's going to require a multi-pronged approach, and the assistance of the public swell and the various interest groups. May I, in keeping the mix together, invite the parent body of the Law Association to the podium, represented by none other than a very well-known criminal practitioner in Trinidad and Tobago, an author himself in securities law as well, a practitioner whom I've had the pleasure of knowing for many, many years, a very excellent man in the person of Mr. Ravi Rajkumar, to speak on behalf of the Law Association. Thank you.